Have you ever seen sex as purely physical, only to realize it's something deeper? I once dated a young woman who was a pagan and a black witch. I wasn't a believer in all of that stuff but went along with it to please her. One time, we were making love on the summer solstice in a tent in a field in Glastonbury, and we started at sunset and went all night with breaks. Of course, I'm not superhuman, although during the breaks we were still touching each other as sensually sexually as possible, and we were on our fourth or fifth round as the sun came up. The next day I was a lot younger. The tent was open a bit and we saw the sun come up and start to shine into our tent, bathing us in light. It was almost an ethereal moment, and is probably the closest I've ever come to spirituality. Sex was always a strictly physical pleasure to me until I met my husband. I guess you could have described me as a selfish lover. It was all about me reaching orgasm. And in reality, I didn't care at all about how my partner felt, let alone if they got off. I'd come and kick them to the curb. And then I met my future husband. At first it was just going to be another random hookup, but he told me he was a virgin, and for some reason I just couldn't bring myself to deflower him. It was probably due to the fact that he was 32 and extremely handsome, so on some level I knew he viewed sex as a spiritual encounter, but had given up on waiting for the one. We spent the night talking, and by the end of that night I knew I wanted something deeper with him than just pointless sex. If you would have told me then that in 6 months I would be head over heels in love and wanting to get married, I would have laughed in your face. It's kind of ironic though, he had given up on ever finding real love, and I didn't even believe in real love, yet we ended up falling madly in love, and 13 years later the sex is still the most mind-blowing experience I've ever encountered, and getting him off gives me a pleasure I never thought I'd ever feel. Like anything with a partner, sex is better with someone you want to please and vice versa. It can be purely physical, but knowing the other person can make it more. Also, when actively trying to make a baby, it takes on a new mental level in some way. It can be something deep, and that's wonderful. But I don't think sex is exclusively for relationship. I made it to 30 before bursting into tears from an orgasm, in a great, really hard to explain way. Has only happened with my current partner. It's unpredictable, but when it happens, it's profound. Doing things with people you love makes them meaningful, whether that's sex or a long car ride or eating a sandwich. They can be fun, they can be casual, they can be serious. It's not intrinsic to the act. I had what I thought was a one-night stand that turned into a relationship. Yeah, when I was young, used to hook up with as many women as possible during my late teenage years, early 20s. Didn't think a relationship was something I ever wanted. Then I got a GF from the age of 22 to 25. Not the best relationship cause she treated me like shit. 1 year before we broke up I started to long for the life I had before. When we finally broke up I thought I would just go back to what I was before. But every time it got close to any of the fun stuff with a girl I would bail out. Took me some time to realize that I did not want to hook up with random girls anymore. Sex had become much more than just physical attraction to me. My first relationship grounded me and made me much less insecure, I guess. It is deep to say the least. Sex can be great if you click with the person and all goes well. But something much better than sex is making love. When you truly love someone it becomes more. It definitely, for me anyway, it becomes a deep spiritual connection that plain sex can't even come close to. Two people turn into one. I've always had the thought it's both. Sometimes it's meaningless and you just want the physical enjoyment. And sometimes you want sex for a higher emotional connection to that person. Just like tattoos can have deep meaning and others can just be for funsies. I had really great sex before. Like objectively amazing sex that blew my mind. But having great sex with someone you're in love with is a whole other level to me, anyway. I couldn't believe that I could feel such total bliss like that. Only to realize it's something deeper? Is it? I'm somewhere in the middle. I think I struggle to have sex completely without any feeling or emotion, but also I think I could handle a three-way without getting jealous, for example. I just want to say physical things are not meaningless. No, but I have two things going against me on this. One, MTF trans. I had vaginoplasty, which has many forms, but the one I have allows for penetrative sex purely for physical pleasure. And two, I'm stoic as fuck, so emotions kinda don't exist. Even sex with my husband is really more fun than anything deeper. I used to have a lot more casual sex and then took a couple of years to be intentionally celibate and dissenterman. While reflecting during that time, I realized that I had been energetically and spiritually opening myself up to, and quite literally, in a physical sense, receiving those randos' energy into my body, even though I barely knew them. I was allowing intimate access to myself to near strangers who later turned out to be bad people or just bad for me. And on the other side of the coin, I was giving pleasure freely to people who I didn't really know, without really assessing if I deemed them worthy of that, so to speak. Part of this may just be growing older and having a different perspective. I don't think I would have realized it for a while without that period of celibacy though, because the external validation and chemical rush I got from sex was very addictive for me. The fact that people so obviously not meant to be together, stay together, sometimes for extraordinarily long amounts of time because of the spiritual ties of sex and spirit, is very telling. We were never meant to be part of this sick, sex-is-free and meaningless society. Society went too far the other way. Yes to liberation, yes to freedom of choice and freedom to be, no to empty, hollow, chaotic energy sex, it's so bad for your spirit. No wonder we lost the meaning of true love for the most part. People don't court anymore. Don't get to know the soul they intertwine with on the deepest level. Holy shit, yes. I just argued about this with someone the other day. I used to be a fucking scumbag back when I was starting being sexually active, only cared about getting that dopamine rush, never giving a damn about feelings or other crap. And then the day came that I had sex with a person I was really in love with at the time. And that was the exact day I looked in the mirror and was disgusted by what I saw. I honestly could not believe just how different it felt, how much better it felt. I was ashamed of ever treating it as some sort of game, still am TBH. Ever since then I swore to myself that I would treat my sexual partners accordingly, focusing on that emotional connection, and it was one of the best decisions I could have made. Purely physical sex is just boring as hell to me now. Go back to r Ask Reddit.